Last time, we cracked Blender open and made it feel like home. But now, it's time to build. Welcome to episode 2 of the Zero to Hero series. And today, we are diving into the tool that turns ideas into 3D form. No more confusion, no more guessing. Just clean, confident modeling. Let's go. Alright. In the episode 1, we talk about how to set up your Blender interface for hot surface modeling, and we learn about some basic navigation and shortcut keys. So if you missed the episode 1, just go down the description and click the first link to access to the Zero to Hero series playlist and you could watch it. So I highly recommend to watch the episode 1 to get familiarized with the Blender UI. And in the episode 2, we are going to talk about edit mode and tools and modifiers that turns a basic model into an actual shape. So let's get into it. First, we are in the object mode. How we move to the edit mode? It's very simple. Just go down here and you can see an option called object mode. Click on this. It will open a drop down menu. From here, you can choose edit mode. This is one way of going to edit mode and switching back to object mode, but a quicker way of doing this is using a shortcut keys. So obviously, pressing tab key in your keyboard will allow you to switch back from object mode to edit mode. So this is a very fast way of using it. In edit mode, you could see that your whole object is highlighted with the orange color. But in object mode, you only see the outline only be highlighted. The reason behind this is because in object mode, you can select your object or deselect it. That's all. But in edit mode, you can select each part of your geometry of your object. That is why you could see that the whole mesh is highlighted. If I click somewhere else on the screen, this will be dissolved. Let's talk about the types of selection in edit mode. There are 3 different types of selection in edit mode. Think of edit mode as like advanced version of object mode. From edit mode, you can control and you can manipulate the individual geometry of your mesh. So first, let me just talk about the 3 types of selection. The first type of selection is called as a vertex. A vertex is nothing but a dot in 3D space, and from here you can see small dots that appears at every corner of your mesh. So these dots are connecting to your mesh. So if you delete this one vertex, if I press X and delete this vertex, the connecting parts will be eliminated. For example, this face and this one and the top face, I think. So if I remove this one, these 3 faces will be eliminated. Let me show you. If I press X and delete the vertex, you could see. Think of vertex as an atom of your 3D model. And next, let's talk about edge. Edge is nothing but when I select the 2 edges, 2 vertex, you could see it form a line. So this line will call an edge. Edge is nothing but a line that also connected to your 3D model. So by removing this edge, you could see that the connecting portion will be eliminated. For example, this face and the top face will be removed. And next, what we want to talk about is face. A face is nothing but when a 3 or more than 3 face is be combined and filled with a surface will known to be a face. So in this example, a face is nothing but a flat surface and only this selection. So we talk about edge and vertex. So this edge and vertex is not a complete mesh. A face is a complete mesh because it have all essential components like a vertex, an edge and face. So when the 3 components will be added to an object will be known to be a complete mesh. So I hope you got a clear understanding of what is a vertex, what is a edge and what is a face. Let me just show the stages of each geometry. Let's talk about the vertex. Now I select one of the vertex from the cube and press Shift D to duplicate it, and GY hold somewhere here, and from this vertex is being placed somewhere far from the cube. Now I press E to extrude it. So press E to extrude it and choose the axis. Now what you notice that from a vertex I create an edge. So this is called an extrusion operation, but we will talk about in just a few minutes. But for now, just understand that from a vertex you could create an edge. Now from my edge I could create a face. Now you can see, now I press E and extrude on the y-axis. You could see we form a face. So this is how it works. From a vertex you create an edge, and from an edge you create a face. A vertex is a starting point and a face is the final geometry. Now that we added up, we create something like a plane. But if I move to the object mode, what you notice that is that cube and the plane is be combined. So in edit mode, if you add any object, it will be connected to the selected object. So it does not matter what object you add, the Blender will connect the two mesh if you added them in the edit mode. So you need to be very careful if you're adding any geometry or if you're adding any mesh, and it will be connected to object. But if there was a problem, there will be a solution. Let me show you how to separate the object that connected to the two mesh. So in order to separate your object in the edit mode, just go to the X-ray mode. You could see an option here just called an X-ray. So why we adding this is because sometimes it's very hard to select the whole mesh. So you need to click like this and individual edges one by one. So it can be really time consuming, especially if your geometry having a multiple face. So in that case, I press the 1 key, go to the front view and click on the X-ray mode. This will allow us to select every part of the geometry, and pressing B key will allow to select box select, and you can also left click and drag your mouse. This will help us to adding a box select, and release your mouse. This will select everything. Now to separate it, just press the P key. Pressing the P key allows you to separate from the object. Now I select this all faces. That means that this whole face is be separated from the object I don't select. So now pressing P key and choosing a selection. Now you can see that it will directly highlighted with something like a orange, but something a lot like dark orange, I think. And when I move to the object mode, now you can see the separation. I can now select my object. Let me just turn off the X-ray, and now I can move the object individually without any connection point, because this is how we can separate object in edit mode. Now we just learned about what is edge, what is the separation, what is the vertex. Let me just talk about few tools, because tools are very important when it comes to modeling, because that what just changed the default shape from into actual shape. So tools are really important. I don't want to go in too deep with tools because sometimes it's gonna be looks advanced and it be confusing. So I just want to cover the basic tools, because there would be plenty of tools. If I cover everything, it would be really hard for you to understand. So I just cover the things that are really important for hard surface modeling. So first tool we are going to talk about is extrusion. So how we create an edge and from edge to face. So we use a tool called extrude. So let me go to the edge mode, and you can just extrude it from vertex to edge to face. So it doesn't matter, but let me choose an edge, and from here I select this edge. If I press the E key and move my mouse, it will extrude. Extrude is nothing but adding an extra geometry from the selected mesh. Think of it like duplicating the mesh. If I select the face and I press E key, which will duplicate the object from the selected portion without affecting the whole shape. So this is called extrusion. You could extrude a vertex, you could extrude an edge, and you could extrude a face. Next, what we want to talk about is, let me just edit everything. So we have a clean cube, and now we're going to talk about the next tool, which is insert. Insert is nothing but it kind of seems like shrinking the face. Now I select the face, and if I press I key and move my mouse, it will actually creating a small face from the selected face, and it also leaves some offset edge around the face I insert. Now I press I insert again. So when every time I press insert, it will create a small face inside the selected face, and also leaves a offset cut, a supportive edge around it. So this is how insert work. Now let's combine the two things we learned. So I want to select this face, I press I to insert, and I press E to extrude it outward. So this is how you can just combine the two operations. And just be careful that you can only insert a face, you can't insert a edge, because edge is not a complete mesh, so we can't insert it. And also a vertex, we can only insert a complete mesh, which is a face or a whole object. Now let's talk about cleaning up this face. Right now I have more geometry in my mesh, so I don't want this all edges present in my cube. I just want to remove one and just want to clean the geometry. So what I can do is, there are two ways of making it one singular face or cleaning the face. The first one is removing the unwanted edge. So press A, press X, and choose limited dissolve. This will automatically remove the unwanted edge that present in your cube. When I click it, you can see it clean up, removing the unwanted edge from your mesh. And the next method, which I think it will make it into one face, is by selecting everything. So here's a tip: if you want to select, if you're in a loop, for example, this is a loop edge. Notice that it having a loop. If you want to select everything one by one, it's going to be really time consuming. This could be seems like easy because I only have a 4 edge, and if you have multiple like 50 or 60 edges, it would be really hard to select one by one. So in that case, you hold the Alt key and click on the middle portion. For example, this all edges are connecting together, so I just select somewhere at this and this face and this face, somewhere middle is this edge. So I just Alt and left click on this area, which will select everything, which will select every loop face. So same for here, I just hold the Alt key and select this face, which will select everything. Or I need to hold the Shift and Alt key to select the previous selection, so I don't want to lose that. So Alt Shift and click on this, and this is a one face, so it does not matter if you want to select Alt and click on it. Just press Shift and just left click it. And to convert into a one face, you press the F key, which will fill the face. And also useful if your cube is deleted the face and it looks empty. To fill the face, you can also use the F key to fill it. So I just go to the edge mode, press Alt plus click on the edge, one of the edge, and it will select everything. And if I press F, it will fill the face. Now let's talk about another few operation. So far we learned about what is extrude and what is extrude and what is inset. Now let's talk about a loop cut. So right now we having edges and we having face and we have vertex. But what if I want to add an edge at the middle? So that is why we're using a loop cut. So press Ctrl plus R allows you to adding a loop cut. By moving your mouse somewhere like this, it will allows you to choose the direction of the loop cut. For example, I could add a vertical loop cut, or I could add a horizontal loop cut. So if you want to confirm the selection, you just need to left click. It will add and left click again to confirm it. From here, what you can see is that shows some menu about how many loop cuts you want to add. So I'm going to increase the count to 3 or 8. And next I'm going to add a horizontal loop cut. So hold the Control key and press R, and this time increase the count, something like this. So this is how you can just add extra geometry. A loop cut is nothing but it will add a loop edge around your mesh. Next, what you're going to learn about is bevel. Right now, these corners are really sharp. Like in real world object, there's no such thing as a perfectly sharp edge. Even a knife, a blade having some sort of bevel. By having no bevel, it might seem like artificial and fake. So that is why bevel is really important. So this edge is really sharp. So if I want a bevel, I just go to the edit mode and select this all edge. So press Alt to select every edges, and holding the Control key and pressing the B key, which allows you to add a bevel. But what you notice now is that it actually not making the edge like round or smooth, but it's like opening a 45-degree angle of cut. So this is a bevel, but it lacks geometry. That is why you can see it as a flat, because this is called a chamfer in hot surface. A chamfer is nothing but a one segment bevel. But if you want a clean, a rounded edge, you just press Alt and click on this edge, holding the Control key and pressing B, then moving your mouse. While you are in the live operation, just scroll your mouse wheel, which will allows you to add more segments. So the more segment you add, the more smoother and the more curvy the surface is gonna look like. So if I go to the object mode, you could see it add a really smooth round edge. A chamfer is nothing but a one segment bevel. Think of it like a low poly version of a bevel, and a bevel which is nothing but a fillet which is adding more segments in order to make it the sharp edges round and curve. So this is a bevel and this is a chamfer. Use them in the most cases, so just understand how this work. Now let's talk about some few types of extrusion. So far we just learn about the normal extrusion. So we just select any face and you press E key, which will add extra geometry from the selected mesh. But there are a few types. If you want to select multiple, let me just hide this and add a cylinder. Yeah. Now in the cylinder, if I want to extrude this all the side faces, for example, I say Alt click on this face, and if I want to extrude all these faces because it's having a multiple face in multiple direction. If you press E key, it won't work. It only calculate the average point and only extrude on one specific axis. For example, now here it's just extruding on the global local Z axis. So if I move my mouse, you can see that it's become nasty and it's really not the way I expect. So if I want to extrude along all the direction, what I can do is I press the Alt plus E key and choose extrude the face along normal, as this will extrude the face along the normal axis, so allows you to add thickness and depth to your model. So just keep in mind that when you're extruding a one single face, it does not matter, you can just extrude it. But if you're extruding a multiple face in multiple direction, always keep in mind that you used to extrude face along the normal. The next type of extrusion we're going to see is extrude manifold. So if I want to extrude this edge, I don't know how to explain this tool, but let me just do my best. So if I want to extrude this face, if I do a normal extrusion like E and move it down, you could see that it only moves the face but it leaves the edges at the corners. So if I don't want to leave the edges, I could use the extrude manifold. So press Alt plus C to open this menu. From here, choose extrude manifold, as this will allows you to move the face however you want. So this is extrude manifold. But if you're using tools like box cutter, you essentially don't need this because we're using a cutter to do that work. But just understand this is a one operation that work exists in extrusion. And the last type of extrusion we're going to talk about is extrude individual. For example, if you want to extrude these all faces individually, you could use extrude individual. So press Alt plus E again and choose extrude individual edge. Now if you move the mouse, it might be seems like a normal extrusion, but let me just choose this edge, so it having a more separation. It will be, so if I select these all faces and if I press Alt plus C and choose extrude individual face, as this will extrude all the face individually, you can see that the more I extrude, the more separation I get. So now we understand the types of extrusion and what is a loop cut and what is a bevel. Now let's talk about most important and the most useful tool, which is called a knife tool. So far we learned how to add a loop cut. Pressing Ctrl plus R allows us to adding a loop cut, but what if you want to add a custom edge? For example, a loop cut which nothing but will add a straight line like this. Oh fuck, get me, like this. But what if you want to add a custom edge? So in that case, you could use a knife tool. So pressing K key will allow you to change your cursor from a cursor to a knife. So now it just asks me to where I just want to cut. So left click will allow you to select the area, and now moving your mouse will adding more cuts. So I can just do some shape like this, and connect some area, and to transform the operation, press Enter key. Now it will add some edges based on my preference. Now you can just move the face, pressing Alt plus C and choose extrude along normal, just like this. So this is how the knife tool is work. And if you want to add a custom, if you want to add a straight lines, for example, pressing the K key will allow you to make a cut straight. So just draw a cut like this, and when you want to align the cut, you press the A key, which will align the cut. So and left click to select the other side and press Enter. So this will add you to allow, oh, did not add. So press K key again, left click and press A to align it, select it and press Enter. Yeah, this will allow you to add a straight cut. In some cases, the loop cut might not work, because if you're working with a quad, the loop cut may work, but if you're working with N-gon and it's a kind of really advanced, but just know that in some cases, if the loop cut doesn't work, you would use the knife tool to add a edge. Now let's talk about another modifier which is really important, and that is called symmetry. So if you want to mirror the changes to the other side, you could use the symmetry. For example, I do a bevel like here, and I select this face and I press I to insert it and Alt E to move it. So now I just do a change on the left side. If I want to mirror the same changes to the other side, what I can do is using a symmetry tool. So let me just go to the side view, press A to select everything, go to select, I think go to mesh and go and just you can find an option called a symmetry. Click on it, and right now it's choosing the direction of -x to +x. we are in the y-axis. So you can see a green line is a y-axis. So we have to choose to y-axis. So I think a plus will work. Yeah. Oh, I think minus y to plus y. It just be really confusing which direction to use, but you can see that it will mirror the changes to other side. So this is a one way of mirroring the changes, and it really useful. Now let's talk about modifiers. So modifier is a non-destructive tool in Blender. So meaning that it all have different functionalities. For example, you go to the wrench icon, something like a blue wrench icon. So go here and you can have an option called add modifier. So click on it. You could find many modifiers, but you will only use maybe a 40 to 30% of a modifier. But just understand that a modifier is nothing but a preset. So it have all the functionality. For example, array have a different functionality and bevel have different functionality. Just like you're using a video editing software, so you have a different effect. So each effect do a different operation. So just like that, modifier is a non-destructive tool. Without changing its geometry, it will add its functionality. Now let's talk about the first modifier, which is array. So go to add modifier, click on generate and choose array. An array is nothing but it will clone your object in a non-destructive way. If you want to duplicate it manually, it's really painful. You can press Shift T and move the axis, and you need to do it many times. If you want to do it 5 times, it might not seem like a really big task, but if you're doing for 1,000 times or 100 times, it kind of be painful, right? And suddenly, if you want to change your mind and you don't want to duplicate on z-axis and you don't want to duplicate on the y-axis, it's really be painful and frustrating. So that is why we're using a modifier, because modifier is a non-destructive. You can come here and anytime if you want to change, you can just change the axis and change the count. So let me just adding more count, for example like 36, and I could just change the factor of x, something like this, to have more separation. And you could also change to x to y and y to z. It's not a big problem. You can also tweak 2 values. For example, I just make a factor of x to 2 and factor of y to 5. So this is how the array modifiers work. Array modifier is nothing but cloning your object in a non-destructive way. And the next modifier we're going to talk about is bevel. So go to add modifier, click on generate and choose bevel. A bevel is nothing but which will eliminate the sharpness from your object. For example, it will add a bevel to the corners and the sharp lines. The reason why you're seeing a blocky is because it lacks the geometry. So if I increase the segment to 3 and right click and turn shadow or smooth, you can see that it will eliminate the sharp lines. So by default, if I click on this icon, you can see it's really sharp, and if I enable it again, you can see that it will remove the sharp edges from your model. A bevel modifier is nothing but it will add extra geometry and extra segment to the corners of your mesh in order to make the edges really smooth, and it eliminates the sharpness from your object. Now let's talk about subdivision. The reason why we are straightly moving into subdivision, because it would be a good comparison between a bevel and subdivision. So let's add a subdivision modifier, go to the add modifier and choose a subdivision. So when I apply the subdivision, what you notice that the cube is now turns into a low poly spherical, because subdivision would eliminate the flat lines. So unlike a bevel, subdivision would add geometry to all over the mesh. So in order to eliminate the flat lines, so bevel will eliminate the sharp edges and subdivision will eliminate the flat lines. So just like think of subdivision like it hit the flat lines, so it will make the flat lines into a curvy and organic. So when I increase the level to 3, it will add more geometry. So it will add more faces. You can see all these things are small faces. When I increase to 4, 5, it will add more geometry in order to make it like a really smooth. So now we turn a cube into a sphere, because this is a subdivision. Subdivision will add more geometry in order to eliminate the flat lines from your mesh. So I hope you understand the difference between a bevel and a subdivision. So if you want to do organic shapes like a product or any shape that having a really smooth surface, like what I can explain now. Maybe you're modeling a water bottle. This bottle is having a really organic smooth surface. So That is why you use a subdivision, because it's a really big topic. Subdivision is a really big topic and it really takes time to explain because it kind of advanced. So I don't want to dive into the subdivision because it might be really confusing if I explain it to you, because it's a big topic. We have to make a different video about subdivision. And if you have another type of subdivision, it is called a simple. It will not make the surface smooth or curvy, but it only adds the geometry to your mesh. Let me just apply to see how it affects. So now if I go to the edit mode, you can see it only adds the geometry, but it not try to make it a curve. It's another way of subdivision. Now let's talk about, let me just add a cube, and the third modifier we're going to see is a boolean. So I don't recommend using a boolean modifier every time you just want a boolean, because it's kind of really confusing and sometimes it's going to be takes a lot of work. So what I'm going to do is go to edit, preferences, and choose a boolean modifier. So if you don't find it, you'll have to install from the internet. So go to the extension and search the type bool, and once the bool tool is being installed, you can go to the add-on and make sure that check the box to enable the bool tool add-on. So bool tool add-on will just do what exactly the boolean modifier does. It will have three types of operation. First, let me just duplicate the cube and scale it something like this and press G and move. So in order to go to the bool menu, you need to press Ctrl Shift B. You have to hold the Control key and Shift key, and pressing the B key will allow you to open the bool tool menu. From here, you have three different options. So just ignore the top one because there's a destructive way. So once you just click on the option, you can change the movement, or you can adjust the cutters, and you can adjust the boolean. So that is why this is auto boolean is known to be a destructive, and press boolean is a non-destructive. So if you want a non-destructive workflow, you need to choose from brush boolean, because that is really useful. Now the first one, which is the first boolean we're going to talk about, is difference boolean. So I select this cube and shift left click on other object for multiple selection. Now if I press Ctrl plus Shift plus P and add a difference boolean, it will now cutting an object using the other object. For example, this cube is now performing like a cutter. So if you want to subtracting your mesh from the other object, you could use a different boolean. It's a non-destructive, so that we can easily change the size and move the position wherever we want, because this is not really applied. It's a live boolean. So you can come here and you can change the position wherever you want. But if you want to apply the operation, you need to come here and click on this little arrow key and press Ctrl A. Apply is another way, but you can apply it. Once you apply it, it will be editable in edit mode. So this is a difference boolean. And the second type of boolean we're going to talk about is union. Union is nothing but it will merge the two objects. For example, it will make the two objects into one object, kind of like a join the two mesh or just merging the two objects. I don't think we don't need to talk more about it. I hope you understand. And the last type of operation we're going to see in a bool tool, which is intersect. Intersect is nothing but it will calculate the overlap. So in this modeling, we have a small cube at the top and a big cube at bottom. If I move to the X-ray mode, you can see the overlapping faces are somewhere here. So this is the faces are getting overlap. If I press Ctrl plus Shift plus B and choosing a intersect, it will only added the intersection face. This is an intersection, but in most cases you won't really use it. And the last type of bool tool you're going to see is a slice. So hold the Control key Shift and B, then choose slice. Slice is nothing but it will slice the mesh, just like a difference boolean, but it not cutting the mesh, it only adds slicing the mesh. So you can see that it will piece into a different mesh and this piece into a different mesh. So you're actually slicing the mesh, just like using a knife, and it will cut the mesh to the shape of the object you're using to cut it. And the next modifier we're going to talk about, which is let me add and see which one. Yeah, mirror. A mirror is nothing but it will reflect the changes on the other side. Just like you place a mirror in the 3D viewport, the one side you're having is your own object and the other side is having the reflection. For example, if you're working with the leg of a robot, you can just modeling the one side and it will reflect to the other side, and you can skip the one part of the work in your project. Mirror will work based on the origin point where it would be. So for example, the origin point and the center. So if I add the mirror modifier, it will allow us to control the object on the one side. So this the left portion we can control whatever we want, and the right portion will be get reflected. Let me just add a modifier. So let's add a mirror, and now if I go to the object mode and if I do any changes on the left, you can see that now it's mirror on the left side. So if I control B and O, so that's why it's kind of confusing, because this mirror modifier, yes, I don't really use it. I only use mirror using a machine tool. So in machine tool, it will be really easy. I hold the shift and control plus X key, which will allow us to adding a mirror. It's a really fast way, but I'll show you in the episode 3 of how to using a mirror tool in machine tool. But this mirror tool is kind of really not really like easy, and it might be confusing. I don't know why it's happening. So let me just press A to select everything, G, Y, and move it somewhere here. Now you can see that the reflection is going to be on this side. So the reason why we're getting a overlap is because we have to delete the one face. So I have to go to the object mode, press Ctrl plus R to add a loop cut. Now go to the X-ray and face select and click and drag or select all this space and press X to delete all these spaces. And now I got the perfect reflection, I think. Yeah. If I do any changes on the left side, it will be get affected on the right. You can see. So this is the one way of using a mirror tool. So it's really easy, and you can skip the work of the other side. That is the sake of using a mirror tool. And the final modifier we want to talk about is we talk about what is a mirror. We don't really need to talk about this because it's not really needed for hard surface modeling, and we need solidify. So let me add a cube. Instead of a cube, I just add a plane. Let me add a plane, and the plane is having a no thickness. You can see it's really flat and it's kind of look like a paper. So to add thickness in non-destructive way, we use a solidify modifier. So this will essentially adding some thickness to your object. So you can come here and you can change the level of thickness, and you can toggle on this checkbox for evenly thick. So sometimes if you're working with a model, some areas would be like overly thick and some areas going to be like thin. So to fix this issue, we're using a evenly thick option, which will adding a thickness to evenly to all over the object. So that's the reason of using a solidify. It will adding a thickness to your object. And one thing I just forgot to say is that when you're using a bevel modifier, let me just add a bevel, yeah, and increase the segment to 3 and click on shade auto smooth. But now you can see that the shading will be kind of affected. We have some nasty shading issues on this side. You can see this this portion is getting really dark, and this area is kind of like a gray. If I toggle off this, and you can see that and it doesn't have any problem, sometimes it's gonna be bring some shading issues. So when every time you're adding a bevel, it's always recommended to adding a weighted normal. Go to the normals and choose weighted normal and click on this keep shop. Always keep in mind that you need to place your weighted normal below the stack of your modifiers. So if it's a pin, just click on the pin icon and move it all the way to the down. So now what you can see is that it's not really affected by any shading issues. But if I don't add a weighted normal, you can see that shading issues gonna occurs, and when I enable the weighted normal, the shading issues is gonna be gone. So keep in mind that when you're adding a bevel and if you're facing any shading issues, make sure to add a weighted normal. Weighted normal will fix the issue that causing by the bevel. So that's all the tools and modifiers that you need to know in hard surface modeling. So these tools might be feel confusing because you just hear what these tools will do, but you don't know how to use them in your modeling. That is why in the episode 3 we will be modeling a sci-fi craft. So in that you're gonna be learn why we're using these modifiers and how we approach each tools. So it would be really useful. Right now we just understand I just show you that these all the ingredients will be used for this cooking process, but you don't know how to cook. So in the episode 3 we'll learn how to cook. So I'll be waiting for you in the episode 3. If you have any doubts or any question about the episode 2, just leave a comment. I will read it and I will try to give my best answer as possible. And if you found this video helpful, just leave a like and subscribe for more. useful content like this. I'll see you in the episode 3.